and welcome to Watch Me Scrap with Lynn Grieveson from Lynn Grieveson Designs. Today I'm going to be showing you a page from a photo book that I'm working on at the moment, and working through how I scrapped a page from that. So this is some of the other pages that you can see from the photo book, which I'm probably about a quarter of the way through, so it's going to take a while to finish, but I have been using these templates, amongst others, which is a new pack of messy pocket templates which are in the store at the Lilypad. And as you can see, they're pocket scrapping templates, but they have spaces for big photos, messies, clipping masks, as well as the round edge and square edge photo spots and journaling cards, etc. And you can mix and match them and use them to make a whole photo book, which is what I've been doing here. But I'm actually just going to focus on just one page today, so I'll just close these down, and I'm going to attempt to recreate this page here for you. So bear with me, because I usually, when I scrap, I'm just sort of making it up as I go along. So I'll see how we go at reproducing it. But I'll open the template which I used, which is this one here, which is template number 4 from that pack. And this is a small town in Spain, which we were in at the start of this year. And it was beautiful and sunny, as you can see, but freezing cold and absolutely deserted, absolutely utterly deserted. So I'll just open up the photos first of all, and which I've already got ready down here. And first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my middle photo, because that's sort of the one that I really want the focus on, and which is the sort of one that I love the best, which is this is daughter 2, and halfway down the cobbled steps in front of me, when I yelled at her to look back, she's got her book in her hand because she was walking along reading. I think it was a Doctor Who book, or maybe a QI, which is a quite interesting book. So yeah, this is very typical daughter 2. And I'm just going to drag it onto this middle photo spot here. And the way that I do that is I just click on it so that I can see that it's active in the layers palette on the side here. And that means that when I drag my photo on, it will land above that layer. And then all I have to do is hold down the Alt key and click on the space below, and there you go, it takes the shape of that layer. And then I just go here and I grab these corner handles, hold down Shift, and that means that when I resize, the proportions stay the same. So I'm just going to try and get it to match up. I'm not going to worry too much if it's not perfect. I think it's a little bit wonky, so I'll just tilt it by doing that, just by turning here, and a little bit smaller, I think. Just nudge it up. Oh yeah, I need to make that bit straight. It's a little bit further over there, and actually I think a little bit smaller yet. And that looks about right. Okay, now the first thing I did is one of my favourite tricks, and this is actually the reason why I wanted to start doing these videos, because I realised that there's lots of little tricks that I have that I've built up over the years for making, particularly when I'm doing the travel pages, for making the photos all work together on the page, and also making the photos pop a little bit more, particularly when you're doing digital scrapbooking. I mean, digital photos are absolutely fantastic, but like any photo, sometimes when you put them on a page, especially if they're against some quite bold or bright digital scrapbooking papers or products, whatever, they can sometimes look a little bit dull, and the last thing you want is for your photos to be the sort of least eye-catching thing on the page. So I do some little tweaks nearly always to the photos, and one of my favorite little tweaks is actually to duplicate the layer and whoops, I'm going completely wrong here. It'll teach me for not focusing on what I'm doing. There you go, duplicate the layer and put it on soft light mode. And as you can see, I'll turn down a little bit because I don't want it to be too, to about there. So what that does, I'll just show you here, is that's without, that was before, and that's with. So you can see it sharpens, it brightens it, it increases the contrast, and it just makes it that little bit more eye-catching. So that's my favourite trick, which is to duplicate the photo and then put the top layer on soft light blending mode, and then just to reduce the opacity till you get the effect you want. Another disclaimer is that you'll notice that I don't use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. This is just I've been doing this for so long that I've fallen into these habits. There are usually quicker ways of doing things than I do them, but I sort of do all these things now without having to think about it. So yes, just bear with me. Now, the other favourite trick that I have is to put a colour overlay onto photos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, you go down here, you go FX, colour overlay. And I'm actually just going to go for a very soft pink overlay, which should be about here. But what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to cheat a bit here now. I'm going to just drag the effect over from this page just so that I can get it exactly the same. I'm literally, if you see what I'm doing, I'm literally from this page, I'm literally dragging the effect and pop it onto that photo. So there you can see I've put on a colour overlay, a soft pink one, and reduce the effect just a bit to about there. And I'll show you what that has done. So that's with the colour overlay, that's without. So it's quite a dramatic change, as you can see. But when I'm doing the photo books, it's a creative thing as much. I mean, you probably wouldn't do this if you were just using on a standard photo, but it's all part of the effects that I like to have. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the burn tool, which is over here. You see you've got your dodge tool, your burn tool, and your sponge tool. And what I'm going to do with the burn tool is I'm just going to around here and just bring back a bit of the contrast that's being lost by adding that overlay. Yeah. And the other thing is I'm just going to go Command U, and I'm just going to up the saturation just a tiny bit. There you go. So that's my focal photo, my middle photo done. Now I'm going to add this photo over here. See if I can find it in my pics. Here we are. And I'm going to, again, I'm going to click over here, click on that layer, and that's the layer that I want it to be clipped to. So that means that when I drag this over, it lands right on top of that layer. And then I can clip it by holding down Alt and clicking in that space between it. And then I'm just going to resize it. Like I said, I'm not going to try and reproduce exactly how I had it. But let's see if we can just, no, I don't want them in this one. I'm just going to make sure the husband's head, he's very tall, so his head does tend to get in the way. Just going to make sure his head isn't in the shot. And I think it was maybe a bit smaller. Straighten it up. That will do. Okay. Now that's a little bit bleached up with the light because it was, as I said, it was such a sunny day, so you had a real difference here between the sort of dark, rather dark alleyways and the sun hitting these beautiful white and pink buildings up the top. So what I'm going to do to fix that up is I'm going to do my trick again, but slightly different. So I'm going to duplicate the layer, and I'm going to put it on a colour burn blend mode, and as you can see, that immediately has a completely different effect. So, right, but that's a bit strong. I definitely don't want it to be that strong, so I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer to about there. Okay, and then I'm going to merge down. Like I said, if I did Command E, that would be a much simpler way of doing that. And then I'm going to grab my burn tool again and just a bit of a darken up parts, and then I'm going to get my dodge tool and I'm going to lighten up the other parts. There you go. Oh, I think I've more down there with the burn. There we go. And then I'm going to put a colour overlay on that as well. And again, I'm going to cheat a bit here, and I'm actually going to drag the effect over from this page. And that is a colour overlay. Again, very, very pale pink and only on 22%. And if I wanted to, I get that by going down here, FX, and then colour overlay. So there you go. Right, now the third pick along here, I'm actually going to have them in the shot this time. Is that the one that I had? Let me have a look. Oh, no, it's a different one. It was... Here they are. Is that them? Let's have a look. Yes, that's them. I'll shut that one down. Again, click on that photo spot, so it's the one that's active in the layers palette. And then when I drag this over, hold down Alt, click between those two layers, and like magic, it clips itself to the mask. So that's what's called making a clipping mask. So you're using these spots, these photo spots on the template as a clipping mask, which basically just means you're using it as the shape that you clip your photos to. And once you've done it a few times, it pretty much becomes second nature. And using templates becomes a really quick, easy, and fun way of creating pages, because it takes away that sort of initial, where should I put this bit there, and it just leaves you just with the fun parts really, which is sort of choosing the photos and choosing the papers, and you can move anything around that you want. You could just have this as a two photo layout if you wanted, just by getting rid of those, which would be completely different but would work really well, especially if you had a little bit more journaling. You could use your journaling to come down here, and then you've got just two layers, but at the moment I'm going to use three, so I shall reinstate those, and I'll just see if that's about, I think I had it a little bit smaller, possibly. I think probably, oh no, maybe not. A little bit bigger maybe, actually. Like I said, I don't usually recreate layouts, so I don't want to be too... There we go. And just tick up there to make that hold. I might just straighten up a bit, and I'm going to do that by going up to this corner handle here not holding anything down, not holding shift or anything down. I'm just using my mouse just to turn it very slightly, just to straighten it, because I think I had when I was holding the camera, not quite perfectly. Now this photo is not great. It's very dark, a bit dull, and there's a lot that I can do here, so I'm going to go to my trick again. I'm going to duplicate that layer, and this time I'm going to put it on screen mode. And when you put it on screen mode, it immediately becomes much lighter. So that's how it was, and that's with another layer on screen blending mode. Now that's great, but it's burnt out up here a bit. I've lost some of that depth and contrast up here. So the quickest and easiest way to fix that up is just to get a really soft brush, not too big, and just use it just to erase the screened layer. I might just actually make the opacity a bit lower so I don't have that big contrast. There you go. Works. And then I'm going to merge those two layers down. Then I'm going to actually duplicate it again and put it on soft light, just for a bit of pop, but just very, very, just like that. Okay. Merge it down, and then I'm going to get my trusty dodge and burn tools and dodge a bit here, just to brighten it up even more. And maybe I'll just burn just a little bit, just here, just darken it. Okay. And then I'm going to put my colour overlay here. And again, I'm just going to cheat here, and I'm going to just drag this one over, but I'll show you. I should drag that effect on. And I'm just going to make that a little bit lower, it's a little bit bright. There you go. Now I did that. If I wanted to put an overlay on, I'd just go FX, colour overlay, and then I just choose the colour I want. So as you can see, you can get quite different effects depending on what colour you choose and how dark you want the colour. So I can make a more blue, sort of a vintagey look, quite like purple. But I'm just going to leave it with the slight pinky hue that I had, and I might just burn a bit more because it lost a bit of the detail with that. Right, now we're going to get into the fun bit. Well, actually it's all fun, but anyway, I'm going to put use these painty clipping masks, which you can use for just a colour. You can just leave them as paint, or you can put pattern paper on. But what I like to do is I love to use them for extra photos. Sort of photos which, they're sort of detail photos that I love to take when I'm travelling. I just constantly taking photos, and I take photos of all sorts of random little things. And I know in the back of my mind that I'm going to be able to use them on a page like this. So here you go, I'm going to drag that on. It's beautiful, these beautiful flowers that were creeping up. Well, actually they're leaves, if you can see, that were creeping all over the houses in the village. So again, I just clip it to that, and then I resize it. Find my handles, hold down shift so I don't lose my proportions. Nothing worse than trying to do it by eye and then realizing, usually after you've posted it to the gallery, that your proportions just aren't quite right. Usually they look okay at first when you do it, but then once it's in the gallery and you look at it, you think, oh no, it's just that slight distortion. There you go. And I'm just going to straighten it because I can see it's a bit wonky here. So again, I'm going to go down to this corner arrow here and just straighten it up just a little bit. And yes, just to make that fix. There you go. So I've got my flower photo, but again, as you can see, it's a bit dull. It doesn't really pop against the other photos. So I'm going to go up to another my favourite trick, which is to image adjustments, brightness, contrast, and I'm going to whack up that brightness up to about 32, and I'm going to up my contrast a bit too. So you can see the contrast, you can make it, well, quite contrasting, or that was what happens, makes it a lot more dull. So I'm going to pop it up to about there. Okay. And then I'm going to use my soft light trick again. So I've duplicated the layer, I've gone to my blend modes, and I'm going to put it on soft light. And not, turn it down just a bit to about there, and then I'm going to merge it down. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my dodge and burn tools again, and I'm going to use the dodge tool just to lighten up quite a lot, actually, the edges here, just to sort of make it, just to soften that transition between the photo and the paper, and down here as well, and up along here, and the leaves. There you go. And then I'm going to put a colour overlay on that. What one have I put on it? Let me just have a look. We'll just look at the one I did earlier. I'm like a baker. This is one I prepared earlier. Aha! Right, so I had a slightly green one on that, and I remember now why I did that. I did that because I wanted to sort of reference the green of Daughter 2's coat. So I'm just going down here, FX, colour overlay. I don't want the pink. I want something a little bit different. So I'm just going to go to her coat, and I'm just going to play around with some of the hues. And I think about like that, but a little bit stronger. Okay, and I'll just make it be about there. Okay, so I'll show you what that's done. So that's with the colour overlay, and that's without. That's with. So it just brings in a bit of a hint of the green, which is in that middle photo, in the leaves and in her jacket. But I think I need to do some more dodging now I've done that, so I'm just going to dodge a bit more around here. There you go. Great. And now I want to put something down here, and I think what would be fun would be if actually I continued the cobbles that they're walking on, because one of the fun things about this little town was the cobble streets were actually quite difficult to walk on. We were very glad that it wasn't wet or icy, because it would have been just disastrous. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of the photos again. I think I'm going to grab this one again, which is the one that I used here, but I'm just going to click on that layer, drag it over. Let's see, oh, it's quite big. Is it down? And I'm going to clip it to that. Then I'm going to just have a play, moving it around, resizing it, and just seeing how I can get it to work. So I sort of want to line up that there. I think that will do. So say yes. That's good. That's great. But as you can see, it's very dark. It's quite dull, and it's way too overpowering for the page. So I'm going to have a lot of fun tweaking this. What I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to go to my brightness and contrast, and I'm going to whack this all the way up to 61, I think will be good, and contrast as well. There you and already you can see that's made a huge difference. But what I'm going to do, grab my dodge tool, make it a bit bigger because I need a quite big, see, let's make it about 600, and I'm going to dodge like I did before. I'm just going to dodge around where that meets up with the paper, just to make that transition a bit less obvious. Okay, right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer, and I'm going to put a green overlay on that like I did up here. So I'm going to add my colour overlay. Because it's the last one I used, it's still there. So I'll make that quite, let me just make it a little bit brighter. There you go. Right, okay. So as you can see, that's very similar to what I've got over here. I just dodged it a bit. Hang on, I over-dodged. I dodged too great. I'll just turn my dodge down a bit, and I'll just a little bit. There you go. Now when I was doing this, the first page over here, I was quite happy with that, but it just wasn't quite, there was something that just wasn't quite working for me. And then I had the idea of actually duplicating that layer again and going down to the one underneath and changing the colour overlay to something which has more of these tones, perhaps the slightly purpley tones, a bit of a reference to the husband's backpack, which is actually my backpack, but he very kindly carries around, even though it's shocking pinky purple colour. When we're travelling, we call him the domestic beast of burden because he does that. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to drag the one that I had from over here. Let's check that I've got. Oh, as you can see, if I take off the top one, oh, I had it really purple under there. I don't want that, but I am going to drag the effect onto there, which is underneath. And I put it underneath, and then I'm going to get my soft brush quite big, make it quite, yep, about that, and quite low. And I'm just going to erase some of that green one just to reveal, probably a bit bold. I think I'll go back and make the brush a bit less. Here you go. And I'm just going to bring out some of that purple that's underneath, make it even less. There you go. And I might just make that a bit less. There you go. Okay. So there you go. So I've actually got two photos exactly the same. One's got a purple colour overlay on, one's got a green colour overlay, and all I've done is I've just erased some of the top one to reveal some of the purple underneath. And what it sort of does is it makes a kind of a V. If you can see, your eye comes down here along these flowers, along the line of the road there, and then back along here. And that's a sort of a pinky purpley V. Just a suggestion of it. Now, what did I do next? Yes, that's right. Then I got to the part where I started to dress it up a bit. So I went looking through my paint transfers that I've got, and I found this one from my Snug as a Bug transfers, or Snug as a Bug kit. and I thought that would work quite well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it to this white paint here, which is actually, if you look, see, it's white paint that goes over that top layer. So if you didn't want it there, you could just turn it off if you quite like that look of the sharper edge. But I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to drag this on down a bit, press it down, and I'm going to clip it, Alt, down to that. But I want it to come up along the top here, so I'm just going to move that paint up. And when I do that, let's see, I think I made this slightly small. Oh, no, I'm moving the paint. I don't want to do that. Make sure that it's the paint transfer that I move. About there. No. Okay. And then I thought, I want something along here that's going to work with that. I might actually move this ribbon out of the way. And I found my here and now transfers, which I thought would work. So I'm going to click the base and drag that on, and it's going to land. I'll just shut it down. It's going to land here. Just I'll make it fit. It's about here, which is great. But the colour's not quite right. It's just a bit too orange. So I'm going to recolour it. I'm going to go Command U, which brings up the hue saturation box. And I'm just going to change the hue. Just going to make it so it works a little better with. There you go, about there. Okay. Oh yes. Right, now I'm thinking I've got this up here, I've got this up here, and this corner here is looking just a bit dull, but I think I just want a hint of something there, so I'm going to duplicate this layer using Command V. Oh, here, move that there. I'm just going to move it, and I'm going to pop it behind the book plate, like that. There you go. Right, now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what I do is what I do is I'll minimize a bit, and I'm thinking, it needs something in that corner. And what I love is little postage stamps. Now, initially I thought I'd try this one, and I like it, but it's just a bit too. I think I've got enough pink and stuff on a travel page, so I decided instead to go with something which is more like the colours that are up here in that wall. So I got this from my Hester kit, which is actually a sort of a Thanksgiving kit, but you can use it for all sorts of things. Okay. I'm just going to put a little drop shadow on it. Now I quite like that drop shadow, but I think I could make it a little bit more realistic. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to up here to go to layer, and I'm going to go all the way down to layer style, and I'm going to go create layer. Get that, and then this here under your blur tool, sharper tool and smudge tool. Now grab my smudge tool. I'm just going to play with these shadows just a bit, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. There you go. It's a bit different what I did there, but it's okay. Now, I think I want to have a date on here, and I could put the date down here, and quite often I do use book plates and those sort of spaces on templates for dates. But I think what I'll do is, because I've got sort of a bit of a shabby kind of thing going on here, I'll use one of my stitch down dates, and I'll just drag that on. I want it to come up here, so I'll just drag it on up here, and I'll make it just a little bit smaller. There. I'll pop it there into space. Right. Now I actually want this book plate to be a bit whiter because I'm just leaving the background paper white. So I'm just going to select that colour, and then go to image adjustment, replace colour, and just make it a bit lighter. There you go. And then I'm going to put my title there. I'm going to put it black because there are some black touches in here. Daughter's black scarf, got this black little pointer thing up here, the black doorway, black book plate. So I think I'll make it black, and I'll just go up here and make sure I'm above that. Whoops, forgot to select the black. I'll just go over here. There you go. Oops. And I'll just move it. Oh, I'm spinning. There you go. Move it into. There we go. I've probably been doing a bit too much, so I might just do a. There you go. Right. Now I want to do my journaling, and the easiest way to do that, you can just delete it. And often what I do if I've already been working on a photo book, is I'll actually already have the journaling and everything set up on the previous page I've done, and I'm using the same style, the same colour. So quite often I'll just drag it over and then I'll just change the text. But I'll just show you what you do. You highlight it and then pick the colour that you want to change it to, and I'm going to use the colour here from the wall, and I want it to be a bit darker so it stands out. So a bit like that, which is great. But I also want to use a different font. I want to use the same font that I've used here, but much smaller. So I'm just going to highlight it again. I'm going to go down to my character, and I'm going to go to, hang on a sec, what have I done here? Move it so I can see it, that'll make it better, wouldn't it? Okay, that's better. So I'm going to Super Clarendon, and I'm going to make it so that it's got standard spacing between. I'm going to make it 8 point, but I like a bit more space between the lines, so I'm going to go for 11. There you go. I'll just get in there and have a look. And then I can just change the text to whatever I want. And I'm just going to move that down so that it fills that space better, because on the template there's quite a bit of space left for a bit longer journaling, so I just want to make sure that it's in that spot. And then what I did on this one, and I'm just going to cheat again, copy this over. This is a caption, and like I said, when I'm making a photo book, I'll tend to use the same fonts and often similar colours throughout. So I'll just open up the PSD of the previous page that I did, and then just drag it over and then change the text to fit. And there you have it. A page of a day in France using my noted Messy Pockets noted templates. Thanks for looking. Bye.